Pocatello.
Hello, Pocatello.
Hello, Pocatello. Hello, Pocatello. We are back with an amazing episode, and for the first time ever, we're welcoming two incredible guests. Meet Terry Fredrickson, president of New Day Products and Resources and owner and counselor at Pacific Rim Consulting, LLC. And meet Jonathan Brock, director of the ISU Center for Accessibility, Leadership, and Innovation. Both are strong advocates for our individuals with disabilities and do so much for our community. Let's just dive right in. So, for listeners who may not know you personally, I would love to hear a quick snapshot from both of you, who you are, and what drives the work you do in disability support and empowerment.
Yeah, so Terry Fredrickson. I have lived in Pocatello since 2001 actually. I was actually recruited to go to Boise State University and came to ISU and did a campus tour and fell in love with ISU and fell in love with Pocatello and have stayed ever since, and very happy that I stayed. I got into the human service field kind of by accident. I was going to school to become an attorney. My plans was to be an attorney. My mind was made up. Graduated from ISU in May, and in July, my brother, who is 1 year older than me, he and his roommate were in their apartment shooting up heroin, and they both passed away of a drug overdose. One of those moments where I wanted to find the nearest cape, put it on, and go out and fight crime, right? That was my response, was to fight crime, fight people that use drugs. And I realized that drug use was not crime. Drug use was a cry for help, because I knew that my brother wasn't a criminal. He was just trying to numb some of his past and needed help. So I abandoned my goals of law school and becoming an attorney. And I went back to school and became a counselor specializing in substance abuse. And I currently have changed roles. I used to be a cognitive behavioral therapy group facilitator. I now specialize in early recovery, or as we like to call it, the emergency room of addiction. So I have a lot of people who, for their first time, have openly admitted that they're willing to work on their substance abuse issue. That's what I do in the evenings. During the day, I help people with disabilities and employment experiences at New Day. One of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever worked and ever been a part of. It's really hard to have a bad day at New Day. And I really live by New Day's motto, don't diss my ability. Play on words, because we look for everyone's abilities and we get them to work.
How about you, Jonathan?
Thank you, Terry, and thank you very much. So I grew up in the Ozarks of southern Missouri, and getting right down to what has inspired me to do support for individuals with disabilities, and we know there's a wide range of what that means. So 10 years ago next month, I lost my mother to her long-term battle with depression and bipolar and substance abuse addiction. Her body shut down finally at 69 years old because of the long-time use of substance. So she died of long-time alcohol and substance abuse, quite frankly. So when that happened a decade ago, that really changed my entire perspective. And having grown up with all of that, being a complex trauma survivor myself, and finally being an adult, willing to admit that and admit that openly to the public, there's no shame in it. It's empowering when you actually come to terms with the fact you've been through that stuff and you're a survivor of it. So about 10 years ago when that happened, it turned my eyes onto, well, you know what? There are individuals in our world and members of our human family who are struggling mentally, and that has turned my lens also to now the members of our human family who have a disability or a special need of some kind. I think now more than ever, my passion is found in the fact that this is still a very marginalized sector of our human family, and it's 2026, and we want to really do something about it and raise the quality of life of our human family members who have a disability and give them the opportunity that everybody else has, and it'll erase and eliminate the stigma and change the narrative. I've enjoyed a service as a career in education as a school principal and as a school district superintendent. I've worked as a consultant for 17 years now in public and private sector change management and organizational development, in addition to my career in education administration. I currently work and serve as the director of the Center for Accessibility, Leadership, and Innovation at Idaho State University. We are an adjunct to the Department of Disability Services within the Division of Student Affairs. And it's an exciting opportunity to come on board with ISU, and we're building this organization from the ground up. And we'll talk some of the things we're targeting to help our human family members who are in need.
Well, thank you both for your contributions to the Pocatello community. I know personally how big of an impact you both have had, so I just wanted to say thank you. The next question, what does serving the disability community in Pocatello mean to you personally? Do you want to go ahead and start with this one, Jonathan?
Sure. Thank you, Amber. Here's what it means to me personally. Any afternoon or evening that I'm out after work and I'm out in public, I have contact with members of our community who have a disability or special need of some kind. And I love to greet them. I love to be with them. I'll watch other members of the community step in and support them, open the door for them, see that they're alone. They sense something that this individual is in need. And sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not. And one of the neat things about Pocatello, you're trying to raise the vibration of our whole community through your podcast. One of the neat things about our community members is seeing members of this community step out of their own comfort zone or stay in their comfort zone and reach out and help someone they know that has a disability of some kind. So for me personally, when I see members of the community reach out and help, it's empowering to see that and to see that our community rallies behind those members of our human family. Juxtaposed to that, though, as I sometimes see, even recently, individuals with disabilities mistreated. I was in a restaurant recently, I won't name it, but they had an employee there who was obviously working with a disability. And I was grateful to watch and see that they were employed, and they had transitioned into a position into the workforce. And they were having a hard time because of their disability, picking up some trays and getting some things cleaned up. And I just sat back and watched, and I realized I'd seen this individual on the ISU campus. So this person is also a student at ISU, but they're going to school, they're trying to get a higher education, and they're in the workforce adulting. And I saw the manager come out, and anyone who was in earshot heard this individual berate their employee because they couldn't pick things up fast enough or do it right. And then there's the comment, quote, "How many times do I have to show you this? Look at all the customers that are watching." And I walked up to that person and I said, "How dare you? How dare you treat this person
High
like
five
that?
right now.
How dare you? How
That's
dare
so
you?"
frustrating.
And they said to me, "Well, why don't you mind your own job? You do your business. You do your job and I'll do mine." I said, "I just did. Because if no one else is going to advocate for this person, someone needs to." So getting back to your question, it's a constant state of advocacy that we're in every day. It's not just because they're in this margin, it's because they're members of our human family and they deserve advocacy. And in those moments where you're treated like that, it's hard to interface. Your soft skills go out the window and you need someone to advocate for you. So I look at the bigger picture of that and think, okay, the problem there is not the individual. The problem there is educating people in the right ways about how to create an environment where those individuals can thrive and have a quality of life in their education or in their workforce experience. So I've seen both sides there. Members of the community step out and lift individuals with special needs, and then also those who are making decisions because they're not informed.
I just want to say one thing. I'd love to hear what you have to say too, Terry. Terry was actually our very first podcast guest. We appreciate him so much. And we did talk about how hard people with special needs really work. You know, they work so hard. I used to be a developmental therapist, and I remember I felt like I was irresponsible. She was so responsible. So I really, that makes me sad, but I really appreciate you standing up and advocating for him, because that does happen a lot. I've seen firsthand with my son where they will just yell at him, and they'll yell at him. He worked off and on for Nick Garcia at Puerto Vallarta, and he was the best boss he ever had. So patient, so kind, so wonderful. And he still sometimes put him to work when he needs extra money.
Sure.
So there are people that are great, and there are people like you that are going to stand up and do something about it. I am really glad you did, but I will say I'm curious to hear what you have to say, but after developmental therapy, I was like, you know what? Like, if I could ever just open a coffee shop and hire all people with special needs, I absolutely would. It would be so fun, and it would be so, like, it would be clean, and everybody would work so hard. So anyway, Terry, what does serving the disability community of Pocatello mean to you personally?
You know, on a personal level, I had a really unique experience in my early 20s. I was in a meeting with a gentleman by the name of Gordon B. Hinckley, who at the time was the leader of the Latter-day Saint Church. And in the middle of this meeting, he stopped and he said, I feel like I need to say something. And he said, I believe that what you have to give, people need to have. Will you please give it away? Will you please give that away? And it challenged me. I mean, this is my early 20s. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But that challenge spoke to me at a very core level. And I'm still oftentimes stirred by that challenge. What you have to give, people need to have. And so working with people with disabilities, I sometimes go, I'm definitely not doing this for money. There's, as we know by government cuts, that it's hard to have people work in this industry. But I feel so much personal satisfaction. I feel like on a daily basis, I'm being able to give of my talents and my energy to someone else, and it's so fulfilling. Such a selfish reason, right? I mean, to be honest, I mean, I get so much out of this. I mean, the end of the day is such a unique feeling for me, and realizing that such small wins are giant wins in some people's lives, right? The things I wouldn't even think about as being a win is a huge win for someone else, and it helps me keep my life and things in perspective, and has really led to a very enriched and happy life for me to be able to work in this industry.
And you help a lot of people and encourage a lot of people too. Gotta throw that out there because I see it all the time.
I hear you. I hear you, Terry.
Yeah. Well, let's move into purpose and mission. We've talked a little bit about this, but what first inspired each of you to work with individuals with disabilities? And was there a defining moment? You both have kind of given a little information there, but if there's anything else you'd like to share.
You know, I'll pitch in there, Amber. I worked as a school principal and district superintendent for my previous career, and special education, Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, IDEA, that's a driving force in education. And within that realm, it's not a volunteer. Well, we might decide to do something with students who no, it's not that case at all. The law says you will provide resources, you will provide a plan, you will provide related services, whatever the identified need is, whether it's cognitive delay or whether it's a physical disability. People are to rally around. I love the special education component of K through 12 education because it gets people focused intentionally on an individual student and then what their family's needs are. That was my first inspiring paradigm shift when I got into education. And with that, sometimes what happens is people fall through the cracks. And one of my biggest kudos to the educators out there right now and to the families of students who have a special need is these are some of the most caring, deeply, richly loving individuals, providers in special education. Then you get into the adult world where ADA becomes, you know, the law and what you have to reconcile for adults. I am inspired, particularly I'll mention our Department of Disability Services at ISU. I'm absolutely inspired to see the whole mechanism they've put together to help students at the university who have a disability and special need. It's neat to see the accommodation programs and the wide range of things that they've built out as a team there to address what different individuals' needs are. A defining moment for me was really, quite frankly, when I lost my mother. I lost my mother to a mental disability. And that's what it was. That changed my whole paradigm. It changed my belief system about how I would go to work the next day on Monday back then. And I viewed our students differently than I ever had. I viewed their parents and their families or guardians differently. And then by virtue of that, I began to view the providers within my organization that I supervised differently. It wasn't just a mandate. This was an absolute obligation to raise the quality of life of the students. So with that, working through special education in the K through 12 world and seeing that happen with losing mom and then going back and refocusing my attention on special education, it really is special. It's an opportunity to do a lot more if you have the desire to do it. That was a defining moment for me. Absolutely defining.
Oh, one of the best accidents that's ever happened to me was stumbling into working at New Day. So I didn't plan on it. They had interviewed one of my very close friends, and he said, I can't work for that kind of money, but I know a guy. And he called me, and they called me, and I came and interviewed with the board of directors. And at the time, New Day had experienced a $1.6 million embezzlement by the former CEO.
Did you call her Voldemort?
I did.
I remember you talking about
Lord
Voldemort.
Voldemort. Yeah, she who should not be named. That's how we refer to her there now. Is she who should not be named.
That's very polite of you.
Yeah, she had done a horrible thing, and I remember I got in my car, so I need to run an errand. I called my wife out in my car and said, I think we might have made a mistake here. I'm not sure this company is going to make it. I don't know what we can do here. And I'll never forget my wife saying, well, I think it's a company worth saving, so let's do our best. So we got it all taken care of in 2021 and moving forward with the future. So
big thanks to Erica.
Yeah, big thanks to Erica.
Big thanks to Erica.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to go ahead and continue? The next question is, what is one of the biggest myths or misunderstandings you wish the public understood about disability support?
Yeah, so disability services, disability rights is not a new thing, right? Sometimes it seems like a new thing because we don't talk about it as much as we should.
Well, and social media can influence that.
Yes.
Because you see all of these things that's like, what, that was just in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, the people being institutionalized and like tests being run on them and stuff. And so it sensationalizes those thoughts that people are like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then they think of Black and South and, you know. So I didn't interrupt you.
No. I mean, the stigma of therapy alone. It's almost like, I'm seeing a counselor. No. One of the best things we can do as a human being is to do talk therapy, to help us navigate the complexities of life and to have someone guide us in those journeys. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. And I think, one of the things I love about now having, mental health matters and mental health awareness, it's huge because when I grew up, it was almost like you were bad or you were broken if you sought professional services, right? I mean, to tell someone, I remember even when I first started my career, it was like, I'm going to do some group therapy. I'm the facilitator. Let me, heaven forbid, no, group therapy is totally fine. Mental health it needs to be out there, and disability rights need to be out there. I think a lot of employers are nervous about hiring someone because what if I'm not ADA compliant and I get fined and arrested? And no, it's a matter of figuring it out. It's a matter of making sure that we can provide the best quality service for human beings, period.
So myth being that mental health services it means you're crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
When really, I think it means that you're mentally well because you're accepting that you need help and you're accepting that, that's the first step to self-discovery, in my opinion.
Yes.
So, what do you think, Jonathan? What do you think is one of the biggest myths or misunderstandings about disability support?
I appreciate what Terry said, and I want to echo what he said and piggyback off of that. Here's one of the biggest myths or misunderstandings about individuals with disabilities. And that myth is this: oh, there must be something wrong with that person. Therefore, I'm going to keep my distance, or I'm going to treat them differently on purpose, or I'm going to just ignore them altogether. There must be something wrong with them. Therefore, they can't engage with me as a normal other human being could do that. That's one of the biggest myths that we see out there. And I think that's why individuals with special needs sometimes feel marginalized, is because as soon as they make it public, as soon as they expose that, and it's a very personal, vulnerable thing for an individual to expose that to the public, they think that everyone's paradigm about them is just going to shift. And we need to erase that myth. We need to completely undo that stigma and shift that narrative. It's one of the biggest myths about it. Misunderstanding. Oh, there must be something wrong. No, that's not true. We know people who are categorized as being on the spectrum, as they call it, who are some of the most brilliant, most talented, most high IQ, and most strategic thinking individuals in our community and in our human family. They're mislabeled, they're misunderstood, they're misjudged, and yet they are capable of absolutely raising the level of everything you do if they're just given a voice and they're given an opportunity and they're given a chance and a platform and an opportunity. They're not different. And in a lot of ways, they're better, and there's a lot we can learn from them if we would just get over the stigma and allow ourselves to be open and let them teach us. There's so much to learn. That alone would undo that myth.
This might be inappropriate, but hasn't anybody seen Rain Man?
Yeah, there you go.
You
There's
know?
a perfect example.
It's like,
There's a perfect example.
it was gambling, but not everybody's brain works like that. And I've seen it firsthand. I'm sure both of you have firsthand, where you're like, wow, I wish my brain would do that. So I love that. Well, we're going to move into organizations and impact. The first question is for Terry. For someone who has never heard of New Day products and resources, what services do you offer and who do you serve?
Yeah, so we serve people of all abilities, even to the point where folks who are considered non-disabled, we're still providing a service to help you become a better human by working with a person with a disability. We do work with people who have severe disabilities. We provide supports to those folks, but our goal is to be able to have someone experience an employment situation or be able to gainfully be employed and receive some supports as they're employed. We really look to help people that perhaps maybe have never had a job. For some people, they literally walk in our door and said, all my life I've been told I can't, but I think I can. And we build on that. The first thing we do is we assess their abilities, we build on those abilities, and we try to figure out what the best job for them is. And we have multiple things that we do at New Day, all the way from car detailing, ISU gear. We're the largest producer of Idaho State apparel. We have an adult living center. We have a wood shop. And then we have multiple jobs in the community that we help people. One of my favorite movies is Dodgeball. In that movie, there's a scene where a guy is throwing wrenches at the players, and they go, "What are you doing?" And he says, "If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball." And I really believe that at New Day, if we can get you a skill, we're going to teach you how to dodge wrenches so you can do pretty much anything you want to do.
That's awesome.
So that's one of our main things. Yeah.
A week ago, so
Love Dodgeball.
And I'm going to watch Dodgeball now.
Yeah.
Was he in a wheelchair?
Yeah, he was in a wheelchair. Yeah, he's thrown. Yeah.
I have a copy if you'd like to borrow it.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's done.
Love
It's done.
Dodgeball.
I love it.
Oh, I love that. Well, that was part of why I thought you two needed to talk to each other.
Yeah.
When he reached out to me, I was like, you need to meet Terry. And he's like, oh, I already know Terry. I was like, you two have very aligned missions. Well, Jonathan, what does the ISU Center for Accessibility, Leadership, and Innovation do for students? And what resources might surprise people?
Good question. So here's the cool thing about it. So we're just several months into our existence. We're building this organization from the ground up. And what we're doing is we're using industry-proven evidence and research-backed processes to develop the organization. So with that, what we do is basically answer the following question as we build out what our deliverables are. We are identifying where are the biggest needs or gaps right now in K through 12 education, in institutions of higher learning, and in the workforce, both publicly and privately, for individuals with disabilities. And through that, we're looking through the lens of basically four lenses. Where are there the absence of tools and trainings and programs, deliverables? Where are those underdeveloped? Where are individuals, such as Terry and his organization and other organizations in the community and the region, even the state, where are they providing wonderful services, but because they're working in isolation, where can we as a center help pool them all together and all of us together and enhance and synergize all those different types of resources? And then where is the lack of access for individuals? And one of the things we're doing is we're targeting not just individuals with the need, we're also looking at how to enhance through training and through tangible, sustainable programming those who lead, those who supervise, those who teach K-12 or in higher education or trade school or workforce training, those who teach individuals with disabilities. How can we help scaffold them with sustainable embedded programs that could actually help shift culture and raise understanding about what disabilities are and how to increase the culture so that everyone can rally behind an individual, whether in a classroom or whether on the job site, and help raise their quality of life and in turn raise the culture for everybody else. So that's what we do in a nutshell. That's our core priority. We have 6 core values, and they're all built somewhere within what I just explained there. It's not just helping individuals with the need, it's those who actually scaffold their life experience, either in education or continuing education or in the workforce. So we're trying to build a dynamic group of deliverables that help everybody involved.
That's awesome.
And Idaho State University and the president is behind this completely. He's given us a mandate to not only make this work, but to build that out and expand our reach. And in essence, what's beautiful about that is that helps Idaho State University truly be the entity behind all of it who is shepherding through innovation or recalibrating how we look at helping all of these individuals. So it's a neat thing. It's a neat thing to have the university sponsor it, back it, and drive it through the floor and say, let's go.
Another great thing about Pocatello, Idaho State University.
Absolutely.
Do your organizations cross paths often? Or is this like you guys?
We are crossing paths.
We literally not only right now in this discussion together, but Terry and I just met last Friday.
Yeah.
Didn't we, buddy?
Yes.
The center is sponsoring the remobilization, starting in the community and hoping to expand out from there, of a community and regional transition team. We see transition for whether students leaving high school, transitioning into higher education or the workforce, and Terry can speak a lot to this too, if you would, or adults trying to get the transition skills they need, either through advocacy training, soft skills training, skills in how to interface different people in different situations in their everyday life, transitioning. We see that as one of the biggest needs right now in the area, and in meeting with these founding members of this new transition team, and Terry's on that team. So that's one big way we're interfacing right now. And I know, don't you think, Terry? It's just going to build out from there. But transition, we've honed in, and that team has said, here's where the need is right now.
It was meant to be.
You get into a meeting and you can just feel that energy and the synergy, and just boom, you can feel it. Things happen.
So lots of exciting things happening right now. Absolutely. That's my favorite. Well, do you want to add to that at all?
Excited. Yeah.
You're just excited. Yeah. You're like, lots of energy. Yeah. Well, let's move into goals, challenges, and the future. That's actually perfect timing, right? At this time, what goals are you each working towards this year, either professionally or within your programs?
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I guess in order to kind of address that, I'll kind of tell a quick story. When I was young, I was invited to a church meeting. It was a church dance. All these kids from all over the region came to this dance. But before the meeting, they had an open microphone where people could get up and kind of bear witness to their beliefs, to their religion. And I'm new to this experience, and my friend had been up all night visiting with his friends, these people that came all over, and he had fallen asleep. So I tapped his shoulder and I said, hey, they just asked you to say the closing prayer. So about 15 minutes into this meeting, that was supposed to be an hour, he got up and everybody thought he was just going to bear witness, and he closed the meeting with a prayer. It's classic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Now that I've gotten older, I've often wondered, because the leader got up and he says, well, I guess we're going to end this meeting early and we're going to start our dance. And I've thought, as I've gotten older, I've thought, I wonder what was going through that leader's mind at that time, that this young man just got up and closed this hour-long meeting in 15 minutes. And how inventive he had to be to basically come to the conclusion that it was okay to end early.
He must have really had someone he wanted to dance with.
Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to dance.
That
I was like,
brunette over there, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Let's end this thing. The reason I share that story is because I feel like disability services is that way. We are in a constant state of flex. We have to innovate almost by the seat of our pants, almost instantaneously, right? Just like that leader in that church meeting that had to come up and figure out how to, end a meeting that was supposed to be an hour. A lot of times we find ourselves in that situation where we have to really try and figure out what to do almost daily. And the reason for that is because we have government shifts, right? The government can shift. 1 minute they praise the service we provide, the next minute they're defunding the service we provide. We have attacks on disability services, right? We have misinformation that gets leaked, social media, misinformation. So a lot of what we do, a lot of our future goals, really, it's hard to sit down and somebody asks me, how do you do a budget? I say, I don't, right? In all honesty, I say, this is where I'd like to be, but it's really hard for me to kind of guesstimate what the next day is going to bring. And what I've learned is that there's a thing called chaos and there's a thing called organized chaos. And in the world of disabilities, and for the people that sometimes have a disability, it's organized chaos because they experience this chaos as well as they try to navigate bus systems. Oh, I finally figured out the bus system and then it snowed 3 feet. Right? Got to figure that out. So organized chaos and getting to the point where you can navigate such continuous in and out and flexibilities of life. So for me, the goals is to always try to have a liquid mindset that we can adjust, never becoming too fixed. And I see that. And in the world of disabilities, I see people become fixed mindset and they do fail. You have to constantly have a growth mindset when working in the world of disabilities. Yes.
Jonathan, any goals that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Terry, I appreciate what you just said. I agree with you. In the world of disabilities and special needs, you have to literally be able to adapt like that because legislation can change tomorrow.
Yes.
Funding can change tomorrow. There's so many organizations just in our community alone right now who've already had programs cut or program cuts are coming, and we have to adapt. The needs of those that we're serving in our organizations, those needs aren't going to change, but the access to resources could change by this time next week. So being able to be adapt is key. I completely agree with Terry. He's right on there, and he's an expert and a model in the ability to take his resources that he had access to and to pivot those. So to add on to what he's saying, one of the goals we have goes right along with what Terry's saying. The center's goal this year is not only to build out its organization, its operational systems, so that we can sustain these deliverables that we're developing. Our goal is to daily put the net out there and ask people through feedback throughout this region, where do you see the biggest need is right now for individuals? And how do you think we could meet that need? And then we look at that need and say, okay, let's build out a concept. Is this concept in a place where that could identify, or could it meet that need for individuals? And is it actionable? And we have a whole planning process we've developed to go from there to get it from identifying the need to actually getting it as something tangible that people can use and that can help people in their life, and then actually embedding it and then scaling it. So that's one of our biggest goals right now, is to take the center this year from identifying where the biggest gaps and needs are, and then building it out to see actual results. That's where our lens is at right now, laser focused. Where's the need? Where's that at right now?
That's actually part of the next question, and you just inspired me to kind of ask. I'm going to combine two of the questions. You were just talking about gaps in disability support, so both of you probably have a few things you could say about both of these topics. Where are we seeing gaps in disability support locally, and what do individual families need the most right now? And I'm going to add in the last question in this section. Are there policy changes or community shifts you hope to see in the next 5 years? That will make it easier for people to gain access to support.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you right now that the most dangerous time for a person with a disability is the age 20 to 25, 30. It is dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Because a lot of times there's this gap of services, and we just had an awesome meeting Friday. I'm sure you can kind of talk more about that meeting, but it is a lot of times this is a transition of my parents are helping me to my parents are not helping me, a transition to I'm a child to an adult. I have to live by myself. I have to live with someone else. I have to, survive. And a lot of times the disability services that they need, they're not, I say this all the time. Health and welfare is not rocket science, okay? It is much more complicated than rocket science. For a parent and for a person with a disability, it is almost borderline impossible for a person to fully understand how to access the services that are available. Mind-blowing.
Without help.
Without help.
If they don't have help, they get left in the lurch.
Yes. And so
I've had in-depth conversations with both of you guys about that because I am still active as a parent in his life.
Yeah, you are. Very.
But not everybody has that.
No.
We talked about this at length too, so thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I agree with Terry on that. I completely agree. It's not rocket science. It's beyond rocket science. Like we talked about on Friday with members of our team our organization who are going to be this transition team right out of the community. They are answering that question. They're working with individuals in different age groups every single day, and they have programs that are built out. And what the interesting thing is one of the biggest gaps. And it's 2026. You would think there's more resources and there's more understanding and there's more support and knowledge than ever. And yet we have people in our community alone who don't understand how just to do basic things. And if they had the soft skills training, and if they had the advocacy training, if they had advocates for them, if they're in K-12 or in institutions of higher learning, there's this gap of helping individuals transition from one situation with a disability or a special need and be able to have the skills to transition into this next phase of their life. At least we as a center see that as one of the biggest areas. Whatever age group, whether it's transitioning from high school to post-secondary education life, what does that look like? What does transition actually mean? For most people out there, that would just be, oh, that's just another word. No, there's a huge need right now and a huge gap. And within that gap is a subsection, one of the areas that we're looking at the center right now. We would love to start doing more work with Terry on this and other organizations is autism and the spectrum. As you well know, Amber, growing up raising your son who's on the spectrum. There is more misunderstanding now than ever, particularly in education, and particularly in the overall public sector, private sector workforce about what it means to have someone in school, in class, or in the workforce who's on the spectrum. There's more misunderstanding than ever. That gap right there is massive and it runs deep. So we as a center are identifying that. We're building out some courses and we're building out some targeted initiatives that we can help individuals understand what the spectrum is. Like recalibrate the entire conversation and narrative about it, have some deep dive into what that looks like, how individuals on the spectrum operate, and what people who teach them or supervise them can do to scaffold them. Ultimately, whether we're talking about autism or any disability, we want to get everybody out of the victim mentality and out of the reliance mentality and help people become self-reliant. But when you talk about individuals who have severe disabilities, that may only happen to a certain extent, and they need the people resources in the community to help them along every day. And if they have help, they can be successful. Wouldn't you agree, Terry?
Yes, 100%.
Amber, wouldn't you agree with your son?
Amen.
If they just have the support
and they
system.
have the drive.
They do.
Our favorite little jewelry maker.
Yeah.
Goodness sakes.
Yes. They have the drive.
I wish I had the drive.
Yeah.
She does.
Have the drive. She's awesome.
I actually have a question that just came up with what you just said, since you were a K through 12 educator.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the gaps, for adults. And I do agree that it's after school. They get out of school, they don't have the services anymore. It's hard to get the services. Mm-hmm. They cut them. There's waiting lists. Sadly, I don't want to be so honest, but sometimes the facilities or the organizations are, what am I trying to say without sounding bad? I don't feel like they're getting the services that's being written down on paper. Like they're charting stuff that's not happening. And I found that a lot where we've had to switch to a new place or anyway. So do you feel, there is a big gap there with they get out of school? I know that after junior high, it got really rough for us. And then he started getting in trouble.
Right.
But after, they're done with school, are there resources that we should know about for that age group straight, because they don't have their behavioral therapist working with them anymore. They're all, if they're going, especially school district 25, they have somebody assigned to them, the resource room, all of that stuff. Once they don't have that anymore, is there a step that people can take and move right into it as adults?
That's a very good question, and that's one of the things that Terry and I are now approaching in our newly formed regional transition team, and I would love to hear Terry's thoughts on this. Here's my answer to that, and it piggybacks off of the question you asked, about policy changes or community shifts that could take place right here in the community. Well, here's some thinking on that. We have a new city council, we have a new mayor, and we have a really neat thing happening where the local newly elected officials with mayors and city council, they have pooled together recently and have been very public about it, and even the county commissioners. And they're pulling together and saying, we are a united front. They are getting out of political isolation and they're banding together. One of the things that we could do is work with our city officials and work with the nonprofit organizations in our community and pool them together. There are multiple nonprofits in this region who are in this business of helping individuals, for example, for after-school programs. If we pulled together and we got really innovative and looked at what our resources are, people, organizations, public, private, it's again that transition discussion and getting all of these individuals around the table and saying, what are the needs and what's your ability to help? I don't know, what do you think, Terry? Something like that, a community approach.
100%.
Pulling people around the table with combined expertise.
100%. And I believe everything that's wrong with Pocatello can be fixed with what's inside of Pocatello. I think sometimes we get stuck on the idea that we gotta get an expert from outside of Pocatello or outside, come in and fix, right, Boise's going to fix us. No, Boise's not going to fix us. Pocatello can fix what we got going on here. But I think I'm going to take it just a little step further. On an individualistic level, I had a young woman referred to me, right, for my services. And I got a phone call from the person that referred her to us. And she said, I got to warn you. She's a manipulator. Better watch out. She's going to manipulate you. Every time you turn around, she's going to manipulate you. And I said, hey, time out. I said, I don't think this person is a manipulator. I think we need to change our terminology. I think this person is a negotiator. All of her life to survive with the disability that she has had to negotiate. Now, to you, that seems like manipulation. Okay, fair enough. But to me, I believe she is negotiating her survival because manipulators, they do it to hurt. She's literally doing this to survive. Okay. I think we need to take a step back as individuals and sometimes think about our terminology, our ideology, and the way that we view the person that we're trying to help or not trying to help or that's there, right? And ask ourselves a couple of important questions. One, if that was me, how would I want to be treated? Two, if that was my brother or sister, how would I want them to be treated? If that was my mother, my father, how would I want them to be treated? And saying, okay, well, now that I established that core, which usually is I want them to be treated kindly, now we take it to our community and say, community, let's come together. What can we do to provide? I strongly believe in my core that we can provide a service to help these folks, to help these people. What can we do now as a community in tapping into that community resource?
And I do think we have the type of community and the people here, they genuinely care. And a lot of it is just they don't know where to go, where to find the resources. So hopefully we can help with that. We're moving into the next segment, which is resources and support for families. So perfect timing. If someone in Pocatello needs help, whether financial, academic, social, or emotional, where should they start?
Great question. And very complicated question, to be honest with you. Extremely complicated question.
I mean, you can't really do that. There's so many resources that people, like we were just saying, people don't know about them. So if you were to did you remember when I came to you and I was like, help me?
Yes.
And you guided me, and now we're doing better. So if it was just a stranger, what would you say?
Yeah. So the question that's asked frequently, unfortunately, in our society across the board, and this isn't a Pocatello or Idaho issue, this is across the board, we usually don't find out a person's problem until they become a problem of the judicial system. That's when we find out, right? The person with autism says something, does something inadvertently, and the legal gets involved, right? The law enforcement gets involved. The key component to that is trying to stop that before that happens, right? Helping us get to avoid that situation. Anybody that's listening to this, please hear this. Do not hesitate to ask for help. There's this weird stigma that's out there that it's almost like shameful to ask for help. Okay, whether you're a guardian, a person with a disability, a person with some mental health issues, it's okay to ask for help. There's experts out there that's their job, is to help you find the best avenue, right? So it's okay to ask for help. The second thing is I would say, please understand that if you get misguided, you can find your way back, right? I have people who sometimes say, well, I just felt like it was so overwhelming. I said, forget it. I'm not even going to try anymore. Stop that. We'll figure it out. Yes, it can be overwhelming at times, but there will be breakthroughs. We will figure it out eventually, right? We will hopefully get you into something that can help you.
What do you think, Jonathan?
I think Terry nailed it. I think he nailed it. Terry, I appreciate what you just said. I have two answers to that. Number one, there should be some key organizations around the community who have a go-to universal inventory of the organizations and the services available. If there was some kind of community inventory that was available everywhere, whether it be in the medical field, whether it be in the grocery stores, whatever it is, if our community could recalibrate and rethink that there are enough members of our community alone here who have this need. Like you said, Terry, whether it be an individual with a disability, whether it be a guardian, whether it be an employer, whoever it be, if we could have a matrix, an inventory, a go-to list, here's all those individuals, here's those services, here's their contact information, and here's an immediate liaison. And that would help immensely. And the other idea goes right back again to its bigger picture, is getting all the services available, coming together around the table and saying, here's how we can help each other and identify where the gaps are. That's one of the problems, is people don't know where to look. And then if you are an individual who does have a need, that self-stigma prevents you from wanting to reach out and wanting to try. So this is where we could ask and invite lovingly the community to step up and ask yourself, am I someone, or do I run a company? Do I run an organization? Do I run a school? Am I in a place where I would be willing to step forward and start to create this inventory system? So anywhere in the community, somewhere could go and say, hey, I know this isn't what you do, but I really have this need. They could pull it right up and say, absolutely, yeah, because we're a community partnership. We're all in this together, different industries, one family. Here's that inventory, here you go. Here's something you can screenshot right there. There's a QR code, here's the list. We could put that QR code in public. Every place that has an open door for business in the community could have a QR code up on the wall that says, here's your community resources inventory QR code, whatever business you're in town. Something like that. All that takes is getting the key people around the table, seeing the united vision of it, and within a year we could have something like that and have access to it.
I love that. I would love to be a part of something like that. One of the things we talked about when we were discussing the podcast episode was the fact that there are employers looking for employees, but maybe didn't think about reaching out to New Day or another place that might be able to connect them with an amazing employee. So just having that information there, like if you are looking for a job, this place is hiring. And I know you guys do a lot of that connecting, like you connect people, but it's really hard. It is really hard, especially if they don't have an advocate.
Yes.
If they don't have somebody looking out for them, or I mean, I know I personally have messaged people and say, do you hire people with special needs?
Right.
And they say, yes, we absolutely need a dishwasher or a food runner, and I've helped him get jobs that way, but not everybody has that advocate. So having something like that can connect employers to hardworking employees, that would be really great too. Because the employers might not know. They might not even think about that because they're so busy doing the job because they need new employees.
Oh, absolutely, Amber. You bring up a very good point. And Terry, what are your thoughts on this? One of the next steps in our initiative with transitions, and we've talked about that being a very massive gap, and I think we both, from our perspectives and our agencies, we want to inform and train the community on just what that means and how big of a need it is. Wouldn't that be neat if one of the next steps of our team that we have organizes a group of community and regional businesses and corporations who would be a cohort group with us and could work out a framework, a transition framework.
Like a staffing agency.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And instead of just being an agency that places a person, this group of employers we're automatically signed up. They go through this transition and skills process. We will bring them in and actually employ them in our agency. And then in our organization. Then these organizations have been trained in accessibility leadership, so they'll have built out their organization to be more not only compliant, but the culture shift has gone to a place where individuals with special needs are welcome there. So another focus of the center, another focus of our new transition team is to identify that group of cohort of employers who would want to get on board and say, heck yeah, we want to be trained in what it means to be accessible leaders and accessible teams, and we also want to be recipients of these members of our community. That's just waiting to happen. So we've got those irons in the fire.
Yes.
Occasionally, not all people, but some people really feel that that means that they're different. And I know firsthand, they just want to feel proud of themselves. They're just like the rest of us. They want success. They want money. They want to be able to go get their McDonald's if they feel like it. They just want to feel proud and like they're accomplishing something. And to be rejected constantly, it takes a toll. After you've been to 15 interviews, whether you have special needs or not, after you've been through 15 interviews and nobody's hired you, sometimes it's easy to just give up. So I think those resources would be great. The next question is, what barriers keep people from getting the support they need, and how can families advocate for them?
Yeah, I think the barriers that are out there are really, the system is a huge barrier. The system is set up to not make you succeed. Okay, it's not. And so I think one of the things we as a society need to address is that system. But if you're a family, if you are a person with a disability, I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in that system. I think sometimes it's easy to become disillusioned in that system. But just know that there is people out there that want you to win. Even though the system doesn't, there's people out there that want you to win. And I think that you not paying so much attention to the system, but paying attention to the people who can help you navigate the system is vital. And I tell this to parents all the time. It's going to look like they're putting a roadblock up. We're going to figure out how to jump over it, climb under it, get around it, knock it over.
You're probably a pro at that.
Yeah, right? But it's going to
throw
fail
a
you.
wrench at it.
We're going to throw a wrench out. We're going to knock it
As a
over.
matter of fact, Terry's known in this community and region for figuring out ways how to get around that stuff and helping people succeed. That's part of your living real-time legacy.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
And you really do. You have to
Find the loopholes.
figure it out. So I guess collectively, to deal with that barrier, it's a message of hope. I think that we in this room and anybody that's listening to this today, become a messenger of hope. Tell people it's so worth it, and you're worth it, and we will figure out a way to make it worth it. What you have to give, people need to have. It doesn't matter who you are. Give it away. Become a messenger of hope.
Would you like to add to that?
Terry said it best.
Okay, well, we are getting to the point where we have to wrap it up, so I'm going to have to skip a few questions. So I marked a couple that I thought would be good to discuss. One of the things, and you've both been caregivers. All of us have been a caregiver at some point. What advice do you have for caregivers in our community who are feeling overwhelmed or unsupported, that are maybe on the border of quitting their job?
Yeah.
I'm sure both of you have seen this firsthand. So what advice would you give to those caregivers?
Self-care is so vital. You can't care for someone else if you're not taking care of yourself. And I have worked with parents who have become physically ill because of the stresses that come with having a child with a disability, or a spouse that is addicted to a substance, or a brother who has a severe mental health issue. And they literally, they're sick, and they forget that they can't do anything if they're sick. They've got to take care of themselves. COVID taught us a lot of things, but one of the things COVID taught us was stay home if you're sick, right? Take care of yourself, get better. Sometimes I tell that to parents and guardians and say, guys, you've got to take care of yourself. If you want to take care of them, you have to take care of yourself. You haven't taken a vacation in 4 years because you've been so dedicated. How about we set a goal this year to figure out all the ways that we can help and they can help and a church can help and your neighbors can help, so that you can take a vacation, a time out, get a new perspective, refresh yourself, right? Let's make that a goal. Self-care has to be a priority in this world of disabilities. And so
That's great advice.
That's powerful advice, Terry. Self-care is massive. If we don't put ourselves first, we can't turn around and give externally to other people. So well said. So well said. Here's how I would answer that, Amber. My family divorced in the middle of my LDS mission. And my sisters were caught up in all of that. And with that, my mother threatened to take her life. And I found all this out on Christmas morning, one of the 2 times back then where you got to call home, Mother's Day and Christmas. I found all that out. I spent a month thinking that I was going to go home from Montana back to the Ozarks of Missouri and somehow, as a 22-year-old, save all of them. And my mind went back to my mother's farewell message in our congregation a year earlier. Even though she was sick and she had been through so much in her life that it actually turned into physical disability. A year earlier, she turned around from the pulpit and she looked at me and she said, I just want you all to know my son is someone who can sleep when the wind blows. And I thought about that a year later. And she told me to never quit. And she said, you always have to finish what you started. Even though she herself inherently, because of her trauma, struggled to embrace that herself, she said, don't you ever quit. So my advice would be this. This is from a man named Jeffrey R. Holland. This is my advice to those people you were talking about. Don't you ever quit. You keep walking. You keep trying. There is help and happiness ahead. And I would add there is help here in Pocatello. And there is happiness here in Pocatello. Hello, Pocatello. Yes. Let's raise this. There is help and happiness ahead. You keep your chin up. It will be right in the end. Trust and believe in good things to come. But don't you quit. Don't you give up on yourself. Even if you feel like you're the only person in the world and no one understands you, and it's hard to get out the door or down the ramp or get someone to pay attention to you in public or get a resource, don't you ever, ever quit. Do what it takes to push forward. And I promise you, someone is waiting there to help pick you up. Someone is waiting. And what is there not a better community in this whole world than this wonderful community of Pocatello to reach out and extend a hand? Help thy brother's boat across, and lo, thine own has reached the shore. Don't you quit. You keep your chin up and your toes forward. Someone's out there to help you. We're on our way to the rescue together.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Love it.
That was great advice. All right. Well, this is the last question before we wrap up, unless you guys have anything else you'd like to add. What is one thing listeners can do today to support inclusion, accessibility, or disability advocacy?
Talk about it. Be a voice. Talk about it. Let people know that you know and you care. Make a world of difference.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Oh, I hear you. I hear you, Terry. And I as I look at you, Amber, you've told me your story about raising your son on the spectrum. This would be my message, and I think we're all united in this message for our listeners who can be supportive. I agree with you. Talk about it. Don't ignore it. Don't treat it like it's some stigma. People who have this, they didn't ask for it, but yet they live with it. So they need us as their human family members to step in, pick them up, move them forward, find them a resource, open the door, give a hug, buy a meal, train them in some soft skills, hire them. Take a chance on people with disabilities. That's all they're asking for. And it may take some sacrifice and a little bit of your own personal narrative and paradigm shift. But my advice is to take a chance on these individuals in our human family, and you'll be shocked the value that they can add to you and how you have given them the opportunity to raise their quality of life. Talk about it, like you said, Terry. Talk about it. Get rid of the stigma and take a chance on them. They could be the very best decision you ever made, ever.
And tell your story. We live in a hopeless society. We live in a society. These smartphones that we have and the social media we're a part of, they make us hopeless. Be hope. Be hope. Talk about it. Share your story. Be an example. Let people know. I'm a mom. I'm dealing with this. I'm a person with a mental health issue. You can and will survive, and whatever it takes, do it.
Sometimes being a voice helps others feel less alone. One of the things I would like to add is, I'll just say it, put your money where your mouth is. If you have an opportunity to join an organization like Civitans or Pocatello Lions Advocacy Club, join, support, sponsor, go to the spaghetti dinner for Renegade Modified Sports, go to the fundraiser at Pocatello High School, go to all of these things, or, buy the cookies, buy the wreath. There's so many ways to support financially. If you don't have the time to volunteer, which, some of us, we make the time, we volunteer, but I personally have even been pulled back from volunteering, where you just don't have the time. So instead I'm like, here's a basket for your auction. There's a lot of ways to support. And when it comes to, since we're all Civitans, we all, that's where our heart is, but there are so many opportunities. Share, even just just share it. And so one of your friends might go to that spaghetti dinner. So that's where I'd like to add. There's always opportunities to donate for transportation. You could buy some bus passes. You can go down to St. Vincent de Paul and give them gas carts. There are a lot of ways to support. So.
There sure are.
Well, I appreciate both of you guys being here so much. This is our first episode where we have two guests, so I think it went really well. Is there anything that you guys would like to add?
I just want to say thank you to Pocatello. I don't think I can ever tell Pocatello how grateful I am for the community that it is.
We really come together here. Yeah. I love it.
We do. I have to amen that and echo that. To have the backing and the support of Idaho State University in this community in all the ways that we do. And all three of us love the university. We're all orange and black, right? And to have your organizations, Terry, all the things that you do for individuals in our community who are in need. Amber, you being an advocate and a megaphone today for us to send this sounding call, step in and step up. We need your help and expertise. And I would just add my final stamp to, hello, Pocatello. What a blessing this is. Every single time I drive through the Port Cap and leave this valley, I get a lump in my throat. There's nothing like leaving home. This has been home for 26 years. And then driving back in, it's just like walking into your door and the fire's on and dinner's on and everyone in your family, whoever they are waiting to greet you. Hello, Pocatello. You are amazing people out there. Thank you for helping to raise the vibration and bring people here and for all that you do. What a wonderful family to be a part of, this community.